Truth, logic, action, power. It's the GreggHoush Show here on New Revolutionary Radio. From the Leonard School in Malden, Massachusetts, Gregg and company are here to bring a sense of ethics to your news. Whether it's politics, activism, or current events, we always seek to inform and never to deceive. Let's start the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 25 of the GreggHoush Show.
Halfway to 50!
It's the quarter, so...
The quarter mark.
Yes. So
we're so close to being $1.
We can rent a car. So I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Kayla.
Oh my God, you're getting so good at this.
And our awesome co-host,
The Mac Daddy! It's the return of the Mac. He's Mac to the future. He's back in Mac. He's the mac and cheese of the Mac trucks. He's an iMac. He's spectacular. He's wiggity Mac.
well,
Guys, I have a book now. I'm writing them all down. I'm keeping close
I heard
to
a couple new ones in there.
Yeah.
This, you're getting better at this. I like it.
Well, I'm not actually coming up with half of them. I'm having other people do it for me.
Nice. There's like an industry of...
Yeah, I have like an internship going. There's no credit.
Good times, man. So, I just want to open right up going straight into Equifax and what fun they have been in the last couple weeks here.
Yeah, we had some fun revelations on that one.
Yeah, so of course...
I don't know what you're talking about. They just lost hundreds of millions of identity of personal.
Look, just because 143 million people just in the U.S. had their details leaked,
and then they were subsequently forced into a weird binding arbitration agreement. I don't understand what the problem is.
Which has now been removed, of course.
Yeah, because people found out about it, and when they were sign up here and we'll protect your data. It's you were supposed to.
We already know that's not happening.
It's you have been your job was to be protecting the data before it was breached, and now you want us to trust you again?
So we now know that it was broken into through a vulnerability in Apache Struts.
Yeah, you're Apache Strut.
Apache being an open source group who work on lots of fun projects. One of them being Struts.
Okay,
Struts
so for
is
the kids out there, what's a strut?
Well, Struts is if you want to write a program and you want it to be, what people refer to as enterprise grade. You want it to really be thorough and featureful, and also you want to develop it a little faster than just doing everything from scratch. You'll use a framework. A framework will come with things like user authentication and all that other weird stuff, password resets, whatever, just to kind of go easy on it. But all that type of stuff that almost every application has, so you don't have to write it because it's already there. So Struts is for the Java programming language, and it's this framework that just adds a bunch of features. It's kind of what people call opinionated. And what that means is when you're programming, you can really do almost whatever you want, and you can write your code however you feel like, and you can have a battle with people over whether you're using spaces or tabs to format your code, and that's very religious in the programming world, and you can really do it your own way. So an opinionated framework is one that really comes at you and says...
It really tells you to
these
vote for
files
Bernie
should
Sanders.
It says these files should really go in this directory. You should use these names. Your variables should follow this convention. Which letters are uppercase, which letters are lowercase. All that type. They're really opinionated. So Struts is kind of that style framework where it gives you a lot of assistance in your programming. And what that does is, let's say you know Struts and I know Struts.
I know how to strut, so
and
I'm really good at this.
I'm working at this company, and we need to bring on a second engineer. Well, you can come in and look at the code base and really understand it, because you're not looking at just however I felt like programming and trying to decipher Gregg's idea of what a programming language is.
So
you're doing
you're
that
just
for
looking
the people that develop for Apache instead.
Yeah.
So question, so back to so we know that they got through the struts, right?
Right.
So do we know if it was an external or did someone...
Yes, it was external.
A known vulnerability. It had been identified months before. There was a patch available. they should have patched by all means.
Now-
This is also, mind you, the Struts framework is widely used by corporations, and it is
Fortune 500, Fortune
like
100,
everything in
it
the
is heavy
Fortune 100
used.
uses
So like to
them.
patch up like the known vulnerability, is that something that like could be done in like a day, or is it
It
like
would take
complex?
it depends on how much they're exactly what they're relying on. They might need to go through a bunch of code and see where all the places where it was referenced was, but
It could have been fixed
In general,
definitely
with a
should have
reasonable
been.
time frame.
Oh, it
instead
reasonably
of
could have been fixed in one day if you're a smaller shop, and if you're a bigger shop, it could have taken 2, maybe 3. Not because it actually took that long to implement the fix, but let's say you're IBM. Before you roll something out into production where users are actually seeing it, you first apply it in a test environment, then have testers test it, and then automated tests test it. And then after all of that beats it up and it didn't break anything, then you move it over to production, and then you test that real quick. And as long as that plays good, then you leave it there. And so that process, depending on how big you are, can take minutes
days.
or it can take days.
what is the point of having such a large company not be so proactive about like their data security? Like that doesn't
Well, for that, I would point you at their head of security, their chief security officer. You can just go look at Equifax on LinkedIn, and it lists all their officers, and you can look right at her profile, where it explains that both of her degrees from the, I believe, University of Georgia are in musical composition, not in anything to do with computers. Other than maybe using some music software on the computers. So I don't know what
Like a
on-the-job
GarageBand.
training she got somewhere
Like-
or what she learned on her own as a kid, but like her degrees are definitely in music, not security, and that might be the reason why. I don't know. Their site they put up to deal with the hack was horribly not secured.
No, but they
Um,
they spent a lot of time on those terms of service.
So, yeah, I really do think she just doesn't know what she's doing, or there would have been a lot more processes in place, because
Especially
2 months.
And Apache Struts is very high profile. It is there was a government report put out in like 2014 saying, hey, all the Fortune 100 uses this. It is a huge target. It has lots of security vulnerabilities that they're trying to address all the time. If you're using this, you should keep an eye out for those patches.
Yeah.
This is not news.
Even if you had like the most
Every
secure
morning, you check.
but even if you had the most secure like cybersecurity, like you still hire people to check.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you especially at their size, you bring in outside
like they're-
penetration
well,
testing.
Apparently
and-
they didn't,
Well,
given
yes,
some of the things we
they
found
didn't.
out.
No, but they would definitely deny you for a loan if you like accidentally missed a payment once.
Oh yeah, but that's not. You see, Equifax and the other credit reporters,
like TransUnion.
yeah,
and-
TransUnion and Experian.
Yeah, Experian.
Anyway, those three, their job doesn't actually have anything to do with giving a shit about you or me, the consumers. All they care about is collecting all the information to report it to the people who are paying them to get information. Those people use it to make decisions, but as far as they're concerned, having more data is what makes it profitable for them. So they don't really care if it's accurate. It doesn't matter to them. It's not their problem.
And also, they don't make any judgment calls. They just literally hand, here's the data that you asked for. You make the decision to
And
the
all
end
they do
users,
is-
like car
like,
salesmen.
yeah,
and,
but like also,
home rental
but part of their
places and-
their how they make money is like keeping the data. So if you have vulnerabilities where like
Oh,
data
yeah,
can
no,
leak out,
They definitely don't like
that's not
that
a
part.
great business model.
For them specifically, the part of it is though the scoring and the other algorithms they do to this volume of data. I mean, in one regard, sure, we now have a flat file version of the data floating around somewhere out there on the dark web, right?
With no updates.
With no updates, without the code that generates these scores that are shown in it or any of that type of stuff. So, it's only as valuable as you can use it to do identity theft and things like that. But like having the score doesn't really mean much unless you just want to laugh at your neighbor who has a 500,
It doesn't reduce
And
their
then you're just
sales.
a jerk.
It-
I know. I'm just saying it's like It's just funny
Well,
that like
it's counterintuitive.
yeah, it's just
No,
it's,
the thing that's
it's
bad for
ironic,
them is not
funny,
that the
huh?
data's out there.
Yeah.
It's that they did so many dirty, underhanded things afterward, like selling stock before it crashed, and and also just their handling of this now has the FTC and the Financial Protection Bureau.
Massachusetts announced that they are suing Equifax.
And several other states are
Several
considering.
states are going after them now for all of this. So after the attack, they put up EquifaxSecurity2017.com.
Which we mentioned last episode.
And we told everyone, hey, there's a site. Turns out on that site, by signing up, you were agreeing to basically arbitration and waiving your right to sue them for any of this.
And to be part of a class action.
Also waiving your right to be part of a class
Except
action.
that's
Except you
entirely
can't do
illegal.
any of that. So the a bunch of attorneys general and other people with the power to do so reached out and said, hey, you should remove that. And anyone who signed up for that, they didn't agree to that part because they can't, because that's not legal. So don't try and use that in court. And so first there was that. And then funnier, you put in your details into the form to check whether you need to get their ID protection or not. And it was random.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't
It didn't actually give you
look
like
up
a real
anything.
result.
Yeah,
It
that's
just,
what I heard. And also,
Yeah.
like, part of it was like the last 6 digits.
yeah.
It's like, oh, first of all, no, who asked for the last
People who realized that that their database that leaked all over the place had the last 4 digits of everyone's social security numbers.
Okay, yeah, because I just thought that was funny. It was like the last 6 digits. It's like, why?
Well, it actually had the full.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I mean,
But
it's
I
just,
mean, like,
I don't know. It's just like it sounded funny. I'm like, it's almost like you're 3 numbers off from the whole thing. Like you're just asking, like, what are you?
Yeah,
you're
at
not
that
even,
point, really?
You're not even trying to cover up the fact that you're asking people to just give you more private information again.
Well, at that point, though, they didn't want you to give them the full thing over that website because, it's TLS certificate for securing it, which is SSL related. And, when the little lock appears and it's green, it wasn't performing proper revocation checks or anything, which means it wasn't really as secure as it should have been. And then you could hit this wonderful URL on the website that's built into WordPress, which is what they built the site on, that would give you the administrators' usernames. Now,
they didn't secure that.
funny enough, you should secure that, but the WordPress team says that a discovery of a user's username doesn't mean anything. It isn't a security problem, and we know it does that, and we're leaving it there.
Which seems a little like a
Which is why so
weird
many people
decision.
make fun of WordPress's actual built-in default security, and why
also,
you should.
WordPress is like a blog site.
No, you
It's a content management
over
system. You can
over
use it for
25% of the
anything.
websites on the entire internet run WordPress now.
Really?
Yeah,
I've always
and
associated
growing.
with them. Like that was like what you used before
started,
Tumblr
It
existed.
started out
Right.
as a blog, but now people use it to build company websites,
I
big
mean,
ones.
I feel like if you're going to be
It's now a
Equifax,
CMS, a content management system.
yeah, but also, I mean, I don't know. If you're Equifax, you've got the fucking money. You can
Yeah.
pony up some cash and make
Do
a real
this right.
goddamn site.
Look, there's nothing wrong with using WordPress. There's something wrong with using WordPress like this.
Yeah. So then that really got people wondering, well, how good is the rest of, their web presence? How many other websites do they have? And people find that a server for Equifax Argentina, the employees used it to handle credit disputes, was using the administrator account with the wonderful username of admin with the password of admin.
Wow.
And
That not only gave you access to all of their credit dispute files, but also the full employee records.
yeah.
Wait, what middle school class is running this? Like their cybersecurity?
Oh, that one was even better. There was
A musical composer graduate from Georgia.
Yeah, they're
Not a CS graduate, not a cybersecurity
This is like how
specialist.
I remember like taking computer class when I was in middle school, and this was like before like most people had computers in their own home. Like
You
this is
didn't
what
have
I
a
would do.
username and password admin.
Yeah, you did, because everyone used the computers. Every class did. So it was always guest or admin.
So, of course, we learned of not only their unbelievably bad security, but we also learned that several C-level executives sold shares after the discovery, but before it was revealed to the public.
Some insider trading.
Yeah. And
Now-
it was all 3 or 4 days after they discovered the breach. And they had this wasn't like part of a scheduled vesting of options or something.
Yeah, there was no
This was
reason
completely
for it
unscheduled.
other than this.
Yeah.
This is just them selling a
They weren't
shit.
selling a little each month for the last 6 months or something like you'll sometimes see. There was no pattern other than we're going to have to announce this breach soon. Let's sell our stock.
Let's sell just over 11,000 shares of the stock.
Yes,
Really
when it
no
was worth
big guys, like no big
$146.
guys.
And
Now
then
it's worth under 100.
conspicuously dropped to 123 the day after they announced the breach. And yeah, it's now below 100.
So good on them. So now we find that a couple websites have gone up on the dark web. One was found out to be just a hoax, but there's now one up that you can find if you go looking that claims to be from Equifax, the people who say they did it and say they have all the data. And they give samples of this data. And in the sample, they give Kim Kardashian's full info, social, home address, everything you can imagine. They just dump it all and say, there you go, there's Kim Kardashian. They give Donald Trump. Now, his social has leaked before, and it was the same one. So that's not that big of a deal. But
They also got Bill Gates.
they also
I
gave
think.
Bill Gates out. Bill Gates' social was in there. So
Well, I mean, I'm sure he has like 5 or 6 he picks from on a daily. So I don't. He's
He can
probably,
afford
but
it.
this
He
is
can
the one
afford it.
that's actually under the name William Gates. So.
Yeah,
so
this is
he-
the real one.
Yeah,
Oh,
not just the ones he
I don't
uses.
know. I feel like he's probably already taken care of it.
Yeah. So what they're offering on the website is for 4 Bitcoins, 4 full Bitcoins, which a week ago was $20,000. And today is about $14,000 and falling. They will give you 1 million entries. They do not say 1 million of your request. They just say we're going to chop off 1 million and give them to you.
Storage wars for Social Security
So-
numbers.
So you can buy 1 million of these results for Bitcoin. As of recording this, no one has sent any coins to their addresses. They have worked out an interesting setup where you send a small amount to prove who you are, and then that you are, in possession of Bitcoin and willing to deal with them. And then you send an email with proof that your email address is the one attached to that. And then they send you an address, another darknet address back where you can then pay the full Bitcoin, all 4 of them, and get the actual 1 million results. So they've got this whole setup in place.
But what would you do?
We'll see if it's real or not, but the looks of it definitely are that's them.
I don't know. That seems. What would you do with Social Security?
Mass identity fraud or sell them to people who will commit identity fraud.
Yeah, I don't know. The dark net web is always like one of these things where it's like. It confuses me, but I don't want to know. I don't want to Google it because I don't want to I don't want to accidentally end up there and then see shit that I don't want to see.
All the darknet is really this. When you
know what? In my head, it feels like you're going into a creepy basement and you're not sure if there's going to be a doll that talks to you or not.
Yes, that's
and
what
then
it is.
tries to kill you. And
Well-
I don't want to find the doll. I don't want to see it.
No, I mean, it's like that, except there's the doll.
yeah. So the darknet is really unbelievably simple when you actually get down to just the technical stuff. It's actually pretty simple.
You say simple and then you say words and I have no idea what you're
When
saying.
you load up your web browser, Safari, Chrome, whatever web browser you're using, you type a name into the address bar, google.com.
Yeah.
What happens is your computer has stored on it somewhere the information that tells it this server on the internet is going to tell you how to actually grab google.com. That's called DNS. So your web browser asks your computer for what server it should use to find Google. It gives you that server. Then the web browser sends a message to that server and gets the address, and voila, you see Google. And all that's really doing is routing, but what it's doing is it's literally saying this name equals this actual internet address, an IP address. And then go to that IP address, grab it, and then display it like it's google.com. Pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
So there's a global distributed system of DNS, tons of servers that handle all of this. There's roots, which are kind of these big DNS servers that are there to really handle all of the load of all of this and be authoritative and tell the truth about a few things, whereas you could run your own and maybe lie if you felt like it.
Sure, why not? It's 2017. It's the thing we're doing now.
Right. But so it's a strong distributed system, and it's the public kind of DNS system. It's how you get around. Well, you can type something into that address bar and have your computer say, well, I'm going to ask a different server where that name is instead of the normal one that's out there on kind of the big, above ground web over here. And it's going to tell me that thing is this server way over here. And that thing way over there is only accessible if you've asked this other service what that name really is and how to get to it. And literally, that's the dark web. Like, as long as you can traverse whatever it told you, like if it gives you this address, as long as your computer can reach that address, and there's tons of software you can run that will allow you to reach it, then you've reached it. The dark web is really just, you can imagine, if you're pulling up google.com, your computer asks the internet, where's Google? The internet responds, and then your computer asks that thing, give me your, and then boom, you're viewing the website, right? Well, on the dark web, you're just asking something else. Where is this website? And it's telling you over
something
here.
Something else is scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you're not going to like accidentally be browsing around the web and, oh no, I've ended up on the dark web.
No, you have to turn things on.
Yeah, you have to go out
run
and seek
special
that out very
software
specifically.
so it knows how to ask
but
those
also,
other servers.
I'm afraid, like in my head, because I don't know, like maybe I watch a little too much like Law and Order and like Dateline. I feel like if I Google what is darknet, like I'll get like FBI at my door.
They're a little busy with the people, doing stuff on the darknet to be mad about the people finding the darknet. I think personally. I mean, it's not as bad as people say. Most of the worst stuff is still kind of unproven. I mean, red rooms and things like that. I don't think anyone's actually ever proven that one existed. Yeah. But
there's murder rooms, some definitely.
As the person
That's
who
what red room murder, yeah. Get it?
Well, they also do it's whatever you want. They'll just pull a victim into the room, and then there'll be someone in the room that's communicating with you, and you tell them what you want done to the person, and then they do it, and you watch. And that's a red room. And people say they exist on the darknet. I've yet to see any proof that they exist, but this world is fucked up. So maybe they do.
You almost censored yourself there.
It's just bad.
I know. It was kind of cute because you're like, I want to swear, but I also am afraid of the kids.
Indeed. So, the darknet's relatively simple to get to these days. Download Tor
I feel like
and
it's
go
turned
right
into
over.
I think that should be the episode title. Like, the darknet is simple, guys. Everyone get on it.
Anyways, so where we are now is all that data looks like it's for sale.
And we don't actually know exactly how much it is. All we know is that it's in excess of 143 million U.S. people.
Well,
they are known to have.
It's only 4 Bitcoins. So, like, if you wait another week, maybe the 4 Bitcoins will just be like $4.
Yeah, but I mean, like, we don't know how many.
Like, over 10% today alone.
How many entries are actually taken. We don't actually know exactly how many entries Equifax's database has. We know they had information on over 800 million people worldwide. That is the number that we know. We don't know
that
how many of those
143 million were taken. We don't know what else.
How many were actually taken. We don't know what the actual number of US ones that were taken. Like, we don't know what percentage of their database it was. We don't know any of this. It could be a lot worse than they're telling us.
It's funny, not funny, haha, but it's just, this happens, and then we start, and then on the flip side, the next topic here is like DACA, and it's like do you undocumented Americans are being, I don't have a fucking social security number.
No, because as I said, Equifax had records on 800 million people worldwide. Some of those undocumented immigrants may have still gotten screwed.
Yanni boy over there. Wake
Indeed.
up.
So,
all this Equifax is exhausting.
It is. Just thinking about how bad their security was and probably still is. I mean, they definitely need to do a little work
they were
here.
Doing anything competently.
No, not at all. Being the level of security we now know is going on there, I just am assuming at this point that more of their data has been available online than than this.
Very likely.
They were probably vulnerable for all kinds of things for years.
Yeah.
So Yeah, who knows? I mean, there's probably some,
I try to like keep do as little as possible, like transaction wise on the internet. Like, I mean, yeah.
It's not because you don't have any money. It's because
Okay, it's like
I mean-
99% of like I don't have enough money, but like 1% of me is like, hey, the less you enter your credit card into the internet, the less of a chance someone's gonna steal it. But then again, I will get drunk and leave it at the bar, so someone will steal it
I'm
eventually.
doing all of that. Good.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's just like I'm just
I
kind of
am the guy
mitigating
that
these.
since I don't drink when I'm with a group of friends at a bar or restaurant, I always go back inside after everyone leaves and go up and ask, did anyone leave one on like tab or anything?
Oh, so
like,
you're the guy to
and then I
bring
take them
around.
all, and then I take them home with me. And then the next morning, I let everyone know, okay, I've got yours and yours, and they're like, oh. Yeah, no, it's just, I have literally, I think it's probably well over 200 times now I've had to give someone back their card because everyone does that.
Oh yeah, I've done it many, many times.
What's best is even other employees who haven't seen me hanging out with a person will just totally hand it to me like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, because I don't give a shit.
No, they do not
'Cause
care.
They just want to make sure they closed out the tab first.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one, this was 2.5 months ago, say, there's, like half of that tab is still open. I said, how many? Well, there were like 6 people in the group there. Only one paid. I've got 2 cards here. And I just said, well, split it across both of them. And they looked at me and said, are you allowed to say that? And I said, sure. And they were like, okay. They're like, no.
If you ask someone at random if they're allowed to say something, they aren't under any obligation to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But also, like, who's gonna be like, no?
Yeah, no, I can't tell you
No,
that.
I can't do that.
I just told you to do that, but I can't tell you to do that.
But like, if you do it and you say that because I said so, like, you're gonna get in a lot of trouble.
Right? Some people, man. Okay, so
Speaking of some people,
there
let's
you
talk
go.
about
Let's
800,000 of
talk
them.
about DACA. So first, he gets rid of DACA.
Okay, so I had a thought after my rant last week, right? So, and their reasoning for getting rid of it, right, was that it was this illegal, reach of the president's, the executive power.
And also that it wasn't stable because courts were actually starting to enjoin parts of it, so that they wanted something more stable.
Even though there wasn't actually any active litigation.
Right, but that was their reason.
Yeah. They said the threat of it, well, they falsely said that there was litigation happening, which there was none. There was just threat of it. And in fact, some of the couple of states backed down from their threat, and so they weren't going to actually do anything. But then again, but then I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, so DACA is quote unquote unconstitutional executive authority. So, but what is wet foot, dry foot? It was done by a presidential authority.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Why is that? And Trump is all for that one because it only to do with Cuban that refugees. So it's like there's no difference between wet foot, dry foot, and then what we've done with DACA. There is one difference: that wet foot, dry foot. If you get here dry foot, you can become an American citizen. Yes. DACA, you stay undocumented, but you get a work permit, and you have to pay for it every 2 years.
Yeah, pretty much. There you go. I mean, right now where we are is it looks like a fair amount of people, in air quotes here, want to work on the problem.
Well, you've got Trump saying he wants to work on it. He doesn't want to work on it. He wants to work on it. How would anyone want to get rid of them? But I don't want to work on it. But I want to work on it.
Well,
that was
yes,
all today.
But then that was because, of his little meeting there with Chuck and Nancy again last night.
What meeting? Did that even happen? We don't know.
Well, it was over Chinese food, and I guess that gives him gas or something. And he just wasn't thinking about.
It does go through you really fast. That MSG is no joke.
But, they left it last night, Chuck and Nancy, thinking, all right, he's agreed to work on this problem with us. We've come to an agreement that, and all the agreement was that we are actually going to work on DACA somehow. We're going to get it in.
Yeah, we're going to do some border security.
They haven't agreed what they're going to do for DACA, but just that something's going to be done for DACA. And they say it. And then the right today went nuts on them for saying that.
I got an AP notification last night that said a deal was struck. It includes protecting the DACA recipients.
And strong border protections.
And border security and no wall. And so I took that as, okay, they're now going to draft what they just brainstormed, that they've all agreed upon. And then you've had this, I think at 3:00 in the morning, because my dog woke up sick. So, of course, I checked my phone like a psycho. And I see, another notification saying Trump, like White House denies this deal is struck. And then it's been a back and forth all morning.
I mean, like from paying attention throughout the day, it seems like it's come out like what actually happened, and it's pretty clear and unambiguous. It's just that Trump's team has spent half of their time like trying to run away from the fact that they effectively made a deal. Although it's not like, okay, calling it a deal is a little strong because it was basically like
they agreed to work on a deal.
They were like, all right, we agree that this thing should happen in general terms.
Yeah, they wrote a list of like they wrote a list of things that they agreed upon. Yeah, and then it was like
it was literally like 3 bullet points.
It was like things included. It was like 2 like columns, and it was like things included in like the draft, and then things not included, and like the only thing like not included was the wall and like everything else.
Yeah.
And of course now we're being told that the wall, which is already under construction in form of new renovation of old and existing fences and walls, will continue to be built by
it's unfolding that tweet.
By our wonderful president there.
Wait, so the wall's currently being built, but it's in the form of a fence, but also maybe a wall. But we also need the wall, but it's
also
already
fences
there.
Totally don't count, and we're going to build a big, beautiful wall, and it's getting 10 feet higher every time.
And more transparent.
Yes, and
like,
solar powered.
Yeah, like it's getting more transparent somehow. Like all of a sudden it's going to be like a 2-way mirror. Like,
it tastes like candy.
Snozberries.
So at this point, what we know is that it seems like a lot of people want to work on DACA. And I say seems like because who knows if they really want to, but it seems like a lot of them want to.
They're all saying this.
And we're going to end up with something, and that something is going to be tied to the Republicans' version of strong border protections. And again, because he's never getting it. I mean, come on, the wall's not happening. We know this. It's just not going to happen.
Like, it's not happening physically. It's not happening literally because it's impossible to do. Like, even if we had all the money in the world, like the construction of it would never happen.
It could.
China made a longer wall.
An incredibly dumb idea and like dumb in ways that piss off even the people that would theoretically support it. A bunch of the people that support it.
There's a big problem with that scenario right there, okay? China builds a lot of things. America doesn't. Hence why we buy all of our shit from China. So if China was going to build our wall on Mexico border, then absolutely it would get finished.
You know, the last time Americans had Chinese build something that large in America, it was not a good look.
Yeah, I mean, like, because we implemented it, but what I'm saying is, like, if China was wanting to build the wall, it would get done.
Railroad was a problem, so we might not want to do that.
Maybe not copy that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird looking back at all of that stuff. Maybe that's for another episode where we talk about all the things we did to the Chinese.
Or just all the things we've done in the world, to the world, continuously.
It's a thing, whatever.
I don't think an episode can be that long.
But I mean, like, and then what was so Trump today, like I can't even say it's ridiculous, right? It's just so Trump, was when he tweeted out like, how would anyone want to deport like these hardworking, like undocumented who immigrants that came here as children through no fault of their own? Like he was like, really ... And it's like, how like
stay tuned to find out.
I know, yeah. And it's like, here, let me link all the times I've said let's deport them. Like his whole campaign ran on like that he wanted to deport the DACA recipients.
Or, just look in the comments of that very tweet where his supporters are saying, yes, we want to deport them.
Yeah, like...
Well, his supporters and Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan are all pretty upset today.
Except apparently...
Steve King's the most upset.
Yeah, Stephen King and Chuck Grassley were pretty upset, but Mitch
and
McConnell...
Coulter was too.
Oh, yeah.
When is that fucking robot not upset?
Ann Coulter tweeted, quote, at this point, who doesn't want Trump impeached?
So first of all, never, ever repeat something that I agree with when it comes out out of Ann Coulter's mouth. All right? That will never, ever let that happen again on the show.
It's crazy talk. So right now we get to wait for another Chuck and Nancy summit before we know more, I think.
And, maybe Mitch and Paul trying to decide whether they're, which side of this they're going to come out publicly on.
Well, I mean, everyone knows the side that they'll come out publicly on is the one that they think helps them win more in 2018.
Yeah.
Not because they care either way about
course.
this or about the people involved. They just want to get reelected.
Yeah.
They are horrible, horrible people.
When you
It's
said
true.
Chuck and Nancy's summit, my immediate thought was like dirty, and just like
Such a sick movie. So horrible.
I loved it so much. You shut your mouth, and just like the
I mean, we could have done that.
Like,
I met you when you were 16 too. I mean,
no, just like
I
the,
just
like,
would
the
never
fifth-
have
like
done
the,
that.
The
like,
50s, like country club. It's just so dull and
and where the
boring.
parents are really mad at the mid 30s guy trying to sleep with their 16-year-old.
No, I just meant like,
but the audience
okay,
is made
not
to
the
feel like they're
plot.
on his
Not-
side.
Not the plot.
Well, he's the main character, obviously.
But like just like the dull,
a
boring, like
horrible
white
movie.
person getaway retreat where it's
I actually like Patrick Swayze as like an actor. I thought he was actually pretty good, but like no, that movie's bullshit.
no, that movie's amazing. You shut your face.
All right. Well,
I think
so
we need to take a poll of how amazing, like how many people think this Dirty Dancing original is amazing. The remake with
but you can't pull the story away from it though. The story is a mid 30s guy trying to have sex with a 16-year-old and the parents being
No.
angry about it.
no, he didn't try. He succeeded.
Oh yeah. But I mean the whole time the parents are angry until it happens. And then they're even angrier.
An amazing movie. I think I'm gonna go home and watch it tonight.
Well,
I'm gonna dance. I'm gonna do all because
and
all
you're
the
gonna
dance
dance
scenes.
along.
You know,
Yeah, I can't dance with that one. There's too much like slow stuff.
me
But
and
like
my
give me
dog.
Footloose.
Me and my dog are
I'll
gonna
go
do
jump
the,
up and down
are
on
gonna do
cars
the
all day.
lift. I'm gonna do the lift with my
With your
dog when I get
dog.
home.
Okay, so why don't we move on to Bernie Sanders, our favorite person, my favorite person.
I have to say, the Bernie Bros are making it really gross. Really gross. Like, just
Explain yourself.
no. I think like. Here's the thing. I am a big Bernie Sanders fan, but I'm not gonna like forget he's a politician. Like he's made some votes that I don't agree with. That's what politicians do. It's like, and I've had people this week, like I've had someone use the word beloved politician when referring to Bernie, where it's like, first
Yeah,
of
and he
all,
is.
no, he is a
Beloved.
beloved persona of a character. Like, but it's like he still has done some things that you will probably most people would find something to disagree on because that's just what humans are. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. What does that have to do with anything?
I don't see how that really
because
can
Hey,
be-
everybody, Bernie's a human being.
No, because
oh, no.
Bernie Bros, specifically like the nut wings about the Bernie Bros that have like latched on to him because they found out his name a
Nut
few months.
wings?
What?
Nut wings? What's a nut wing?
Nut wings, like nut people. It just for somehow think he's infallible, or whatever that word I'm
Said
trying
it
to
right the first time.
Okay.
Infallible.
Infallible, yeah,
There you
and
go.
and that's what I boggles my head because I'm like, you're talking about politicians. We're not talking about like Jesus reincarnated. Like,
I would have to like believe in reincarnation and that Jesus was anything, special before I could really have that conversation.
yeah, it's just like the people that treat him like he is pure gold. I don't understand because he's still a politician.
He is. But he's the politician who is trying to push through the various bills that I agree with.
And yeah, no, he's done a
It
lot
has
of.
a long history of doing
Exactly that.
No, he's done, but he has also made some controversial votes.
Sure, absolutely.
Sure.
And that's all I'm saying. Like he's a politician. He's,
Yeah,
he's
duh,
like-
but I mean, you don't.
Yeah,
like,
but
I mean,
compare
I
the
feel like-
number of controversial votes that
and, like,
he's made
what
to
the
someone
votes
like,
were and why.
Hillary, and
No,
it's like way out of
No,
whack.
I'm just saying that people react like he has like is pure gold, and I just don't understand it.
I find from what I've seen, I think a lot of that is people reacting to like overreacting to people that are criticizing him over dumb stuff, and then they get like defensive over that, and then every time they see a criticism of him, they just jump on it, and it's like it becomes like a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, like it's just one of these things where
Yeah.
it's like he's a politician. Yeah, he's done a lot of great things, and he's going to continue doing a lot of great things because that's what he does, until he dies. But like we're still talking
which
about
is going to be too soon.
Yeah. No, he's got like 50 more years left. Like
No,
too
but
soon.
the thing is the reason that happens.
He's looked the same way because he's had all of that rage.
The reason that this happens is, especially with people like me, is because unlike everyone else that I see in those positions, whether it's an act or not, he acts like he actually cares. He doesn't stand there and parrot, the party line and then just look like he's parroting the party line. When he gets up there and talks and you see him get angry, you can tell he's actually angry.
And he's
the feeling, the emotion behind it really leads to.
It's mainly the Bernie Bros that like literally just learned his name during 2016.
Oh well, yeah.
And like that's what I like. And it's not like I don't like. I get where they're coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, guys, calm down. It's still politics.
Right. It's that oddball politician who looks like he actually cares and is only so far advancing.
We
bills
get it.
that
You were
we
really
like.
into Back to the Future. You think Doc Market is real.
Also, a bunch of them
Well, no, all the
probably
Back
are
to the
people.
Future fans are just watching Rick and Morty.
It's a great show.
Probably a bunch of them,
Best show
a
ever.
lot of them really, are people that were pretty apathetic about politics because they didn't like, they were like, fuck all the politicians. They're all trying to fuck us. And then like, this is the first time in a lot of their lives they saw someone that was actually like, had any sort of chance at winning an office that seemed to actually care. And so they just got super excited and didn't really know anything about the topic, but.
Yeah. And they're not like, I don't know. It's just one of these things where I'm like, okay. Cool.
Here we are.
It's like, cool down.
Medicare for all.
And honestly, we all saw this one coming. If anyone has like been following like the Democratic Party since like the 2016 loss, and just like everything that is kind of mounted to this moment today, like this was an inevitable. What shocked me was the Connecticut senator, the Blumenthal.
Yeah, there were a few surprises there.
That one was a shocker to me, and I'm surprised, and I'm pleasantly happy about it. Because Connecticut is a huge pharmaceutical company. Chris Murphy has been kind of he's been in the opposition of universal health care since like basically like Hillary Clinton first he's like put it in, you know what I mean, like he's always like he's never like, even during the ACA talks he didn't like the public option part of it, which
is funny because he says that he supports single payer and like thinks it's a good idea, but it's always been political considerations according to him.
So where we stand now is the man who used to stand alone on this bill, good old Bernie, now has 16 Democratic co-sponsors.
Well, I mean, he's been the idea of universal health care and single payer has been a standalone position for a long time. Because Fox News or they
demonized
people, and the Democratic Party
for profit.
And the Democratic Party has been like has been like in crippling fear of even like trying
to stand up for anything
or like even whispering about it to a friend like in their own house
because thinking too loudly
because they saw what happened to Hillary and and
even though every other major country in the world has some form of universal health care and the majority of them have some form of that being single payer.
And also, everyone who retires loves Medicare.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that, they're super scared about the time that they lost in the 90s when the Democratic president who was elected on the platform of running like a Republican pushed a healthcare bill that greatly resembled the one that Richard Nixon pushed in the 70s, as opposed to the one the Democrats were pushing for in the 70s. And so the Democrats and the Democrats are too scared of pushing too far to the left after losing on pushing a Republican proposal.
Not to mention that when Truman tried pushing it first, and then
he wasn't even the first.
Or like that was.
I think Teddy Roosevelt advocated, but never actually.
Yeah,
pushed it like
Truman tried, and then they were like, absolutely not. And then he did the Marshall Plan, which was just like, hey, I'm going to take my idea and sell it to Europe, and it's been working great. It's been working great since the end of was it World War I?
World War II.
World War II, yeah. So it's like even though it's like we knew that like that plan has been working. Democrats have still been like afraid to even like think about it.
Also, just a fun fact: one of the few what people consider to be true single payer systems in the world. There's only 2 countries that have ones that are usually are pretty much universally agreed to be single payer, and one of those is Taiwan. Well, Taiwan implemented their system in the 90s, and when they implemented their system, they designed it based off of looking at all the systems around the world that existed at the time and trying to learn lessons from them. And the conclusion they came to was they basically based it off of Medicare.
Yeah.
That was actually specifically the one they cited as, we used ideas from a lot of them, but basically the framework was that of Medicare. We concluded that if you're starting from the ground up, a universal system like that just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because it's basically just a bill paying system.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And then what my favorite thing was that when Sarah Huckabee Sanders said during her press briefing, she was like, I can't think of anything worse than having the government more involved with your healthcare. And then there was a tweet I saw, I forget who tweeted it, and I think it was from a woman, but she said, I've been in the military for like 20 something years. I get my health. I've served in in the war. I get my health care, 100% of my health care paid for by the government. I'm sorry that you think that you can't, or I'm sorry you think there's nothing worse than my life. And like I was just like, ooh, bird. But it's just like that's what I don't understand. Like everyone they try to like demonize, like they say they throw out the word socialist, like it's like this awful thing. And it's like
my bigger problem with them, and on this point specifically, is they keep yelling and screaming about the government taking over more things and this being bigger government, and they want smaller government. And the amount of government offices that would get to be closed if we did this, the amount of red tape and bureaucracy that goes away if you just go to pure single payer is... it's gigantic. It is multiple percentage points of the size of our entire government that disappear. Yeah, it will be the biggest change in the size of the government that we could get right now, and that's what they always say they want.
Right. It's not. This number isn't specific to the government, but our healthcare system as a whole, it's estimated, wastes about $400 billion per year on medical insurance and billing paperwork. That's not the total amount spent on dealing with the paperwork. That's the amount that could be eliminated by going to a single payer system.
Yep. Absolutely. When when my office does personal injuries, and I see the tiniest percentage of the paperwork. And we've had cases where it needs to get denied by 3 private insurances before the correct payer pays. And the correct payer is the car that hit my client. So it's and it still has to go through 3 different denial processes.
If you're actually a Republican and you actually are fiscally conservative and you actually believe in smaller government and you want lower taxes and lower government spending,
and you actually believe in a healthcare that's affordable, like you're saying,
then the only actual plan that works is a 100% single payer system for the entire country. It's literally the only plan that gets you all of those things.
I don't know that that's true. You have options there. There are non-single payer systems like that of the United Kingdom's National Health Service.
And we hear nightmares out of there every few years.
Except if you actually look at the data, their system, it's been a bit underfunded thanks to the Tories.
Yes.
But actually, even with the flaws, it still, by most measures, considerably outperforms the U.S. one, and does so while spending like half of what we spend per person.
Not to mention
we aren't even covering everyone.
Not to mention it went in kicking and screaming, like the residents and citizens of the UK didn't want it, and now if you try to take it away, they would overthrow the government.
But their model is different in one major respect. It's not single payer, but they basically have almost every provider of healthcare as a government-owned entity.
Single payer refers specifically to funding for health insurance.
Yeah, you compete for the contract.
Exactly, but you become a government-employed
the government isn't
they
providing
own the
health
hospitals,
insurance.
they own the
they
things.
own health services provision.
But the upside of that is now you have all these insurance providers competing for the lowest possible price too, because the only way you're going to get the contract is if you have the lowest price. So I mean, there's different ways
These
to go.
plans all give us smaller government, better prices,
better healthcare,
and everything that the right and the Republicans say they want, these plans give, and yet they still fight against them because people like Fox News are getting paid lots of money by pharma companies to convince the right to fight against this. Not because there's actually any real reason to fight against it. Literally just because they're being lied to and believing it.
And like half of these Republicans just don't care. Like the Freedom Caucus Republicans, they don't give a shit.
No.
They could care less if people had health insurance. The only times they care is if it's their own family.
Of course.
Yeah, and they're covered because,
they have government health insurance.
Indeed.
There's also, while single payer isn't necessarily universal, many things, like all of the functioning healthcare systems, are very similar to single payer, even if they aren't strictly single payer themselves. But there is one thing that essentially every single country with a functioning healthcare system does that the United States doesn't, and that's use price controls on healthcare. Either the government just outright tells everyone, this is what you get to charge for this procedure, or the government negotiates that on behalf of everyone, regardless of whether you're insured by a private insurer or not.
And the last time that
when the government negotiates, you know that it's not that far off from them just telling you what they're paying.
And the last time the government implemented any type of price controls in this country was, under Nixon.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Who also gave us the EPA.
Yes, and OSHA.
Yeah, and OSHA,
Wow.
and like
look at those Republicans giving us, proper health and safety regulations and proper environmental protection
and controlling inflation
now
before I was out of control.
And
they
making
want
a
to take it all
proposal
away
for universal health care that looked strangely like the one that Obama passed in 2009.
But that's the
2010, I
Heritage
guess,
Foundation.
technically.
That was the Heritage
It's really
Foundation.
interesting that that's where they were.
The Nixon one actually predates the Heritage one.
Well, the what? No, well, the ACA was.
Yeah, I know, but it was based off of the Heritage one that strongly resembled two that Nixon proposed back in
Well, it
73,
strongly
74.
resembled the one that Hillary worked on while First Lady with Bill,
but that was
which
based
strongly
off of
resembled
the Heritage
modifications
Foundation.
that Reagan had made to Nixon's and not gotten through, that resembled Nixon and so on. So many people have made modifications to that original work and tried to get it through.
It was also with Hillary's proposal, she also found the country that had the highest I don't know I don't want to say the term wrong because I always feel like I'm going to get it wrong, but it was the country that had the best birth rate percentage at the time. Like they had like the best prenatal care, and they had the highest mortality rate for mothers and infants. And it was I forgot the country, but it was an African country. So she went to the country to be like, why are you so good at giving healthcare to for pregnancies and prenatal care? And they said, oh, we have universal health care. No one pays for it because it's right. And then she was like, aha. And then she was like, we got to do that. And then everyone was like, well, you can't do that. So she's like, okay, well, can we do it this way that you guys wanted before? And they're like, no.
Can't change anything. They're all making too much money.
But it's even funnier that she the last time universal or single payer was like truly like proposed. It was like because she had just went to that country that was like, yeah, we don't pay, no one pays for it. It's just free because that's what you do, and it works. And we still can't. We're still fighting over it.
Now we find ourselves in that interesting position where 2020 is next for the president.
Well, we've got 2018. So.
Well, no, 2020 is next for the president. And this list of 16 Democratic co-sponsors, there's a few on here who have only put their name on there specifically to help their chances in 2020 if they choose to win. And I would point straight to Cory Booker as the first one from this list that absolutely is co-sponsoring this to better his chances in 2020 if he chooses to run. Yeah. Because he is the person who had to publicly state that he's going to stop taking money from pharma. And of course,
taking lots of money from pharma.
He's been taking
a lot. And he was like one
lot.
of the only Democrats. Well, I don't know how many Democrats voted against the Canadian
Yeah, but then
prescription.
he got a lot of flack over it and voted
decided
for the
to stop taking money from him.
and voted for the follow-up one that he used the excuse about how it addressed the concern that he'd had about the previous one.
Right. We still don't, have cheap prescriptions like they
No.
do up there, but
No.
hey. So I'd say he especially on
Yeah.
this list
Yeah.
is, I think Elizabeth Warren, Al Franken, they're getting on this list either way, whether,
Right.
either of them have any plans to run or not.
Yes.
I'd love either of them running.
I kind of suspect that at least one of Kirsten Gillibrand and Kamala Harris probably got on because they were thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
running.
definitely.
But I don't know for
I think
certain.
Gillibrand got
Gillibrand
on
did.
because she believes in it.
She is the one that I
Right, but I
suspect
think
is
she got
probably
on
more
so
on that side.
early.
But yeah, she got on early,
And she's the only Democrat that has voted no against every Trump nomination. So I
yeah,
love
but
Gillibrand.
that doesn't
I like her too. I'm just saying.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah, I
I think
like
she
her,
was
but-
early on this list of
Yeah.
co-sponsors because of the thoughts of 2020.
yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a thought, but I truly think that she believes in it. I know, like, there like a lot of the who's are pushing Kamala Harris's name, but and it's like one of these things where it's like it's a little frustrating just because it's like she's doing okay.
Sure.
Like,
It's not like I dislike her.
you know
or
what I mean?
anything.
Like, but it's also like let's not ruin a good thing right now. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, let's instead of talking about 2020, let's have the Democrats be united like they are. It's a strong force. They're doing great. They're holding strong. Focus on 2018. Like it's just it's
And, I mean-
frustrating for that people are even speculating 2020 so early, right? For you know what I mean? Like it's just like
also when it's like senior, it's a lot of like senior party officials maybe not coming out and putting their names on it, but they're definitely the ones that are talking her up a lot. And
Yeah.
it's like she's a first-term senator.
Yeah, like-
come on, give her some chance to get some experience here.
yeah, like draft some bills. Like I'm sure she's got plans of her own
Right.
to do like for the Senate.
Trump was a no term.
yes, and look at what an
nothing.
awful idea that was.
Yeah. I mean,
Indeed.
see, sometimes I like when there's a strong senator, I don't necessarily want to push them into a higher or different office because if you're a strong senator, sometimes I think it's better to be the strong senator than moving because Senate is a very powerful position.
Yeah, and
My wife argues nonstop that Warren should not run for president
Oh,
because
and
we
I-
need her
yes,
in
and
the
I
Senate.
100% agree. And that's why I wasn't so bummed out when Bernie didn't win get the nomination because I'm like he's still a strong voice in the Senate.
All right, Al Franken for president then.
Okay,
I'm
that
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah,
okay with
absolutely. I can get
There
behind
you go.
that.
I mean, we've decided, right?
I mean,
that seems fair.
All right, Al, this one's up to you.
Yeah.
yeah, and you could literally pick any running mate because like you're still Al Franken. So
And I
I-
legitimately think that if he
The
runs,
Rock.
who can even run against him? Like realistically,
I just want to know who could out-debate him because I don't think anyone could.
oh no
Oh,
one.
I would-
no
Well,
one's as quick-witted
There's
as him.
probably no one in
and
politics
he's smart.
right now.
Like
in,
he's
in,
so
in the English
smart
world.
too. Like
Yeah, yeah.
like it's not like he knows like a lot about a little. He knows a lot
No.
about a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I now know the ticket I want. I want Al Franken and Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Okay, well
That's what I want.
I feel
That's
like
what
I
I
need
want.
to know a little bit more about the Rock's plot policy
But
beliefs.
all that he's going to do every time you ask that is just kind of puff up his chest and then make his pecs jump up and down.
If he's
Or
going to
be like, do you smell what the Rock is cooking?
okay, if he's just going to be Joe Biden, like the Joe Biden's Rock, like yeah, absolutely okay, like that's fine.
Right. He's Republican.
I know that's why I'm like, oh,
Right. But again, that right there, that's bad. Let's do a little bipartisanship here.
No,
Let's.
I'm just saying, like I
let's-
need to know a
let's-
little bit more about what he believes in.
He believes in Tom Hanks.
Okay, then fine.
I
you
mean,
sold
right?
me.
I mean, you saw the Saturday Night Live Hanks and
yeah.
and Johnson there. Yeah. I mean, I would vote for that too.
I mean, I would vote for Tom Hanks and about literally.
I would like to state that I get to joke about that stuff because I can't vote for president. So there you go.
We're gonna work on that one.
We'll fix that.
But
So
yeah,
hey, how's it going? How about we talk about Russia?
Ah,
Yeah,
yes.
I
We haven't
think-
done
I
that
mean,
yet tonight.
I know we've talked
True.
about. Well, there's a lot of fun. Okay, there's a lot of fucking notes here, and
We're thorough.
I feel like we should
Thanks,
just.
Tony.
Uh,
Thanks, Mac.
I, I feel like we should just like end on Russia.
No, we're going to Russia. We're going straight to Russia here.
Wait, we're going to Russia?
I
That's
don't know.
all.
I
That
don't know
seems
if,
a
like,
bit extensive.
I feel
for
like
the
I
show.
might be on a no-fly
Das
list.
vidanya, comrade. All right, so there are some Russian war games coming up, and we run war games here in America all the time. It's a thing we do. There are international standards to this, and Russia's war games aren't really living up to those international standards, like announcing, plans and allowing external observers and all the other things that you're kind of supposed to do. But
so for the listeners out there, like, we're not talking about a new Milton Bradley board game.
No. They are going to be doing
military
some
exercises.
military
Okay.
exercises. So the war games in this instance are against the fictional state that they have made up, Vishnoria, a distillation of the Kremlin's darkest fears about the West, becomes the target of the combined military
Sounds like
might
an
of
epi- like a-
Belarus and Russia.
It sounds like an episode of Black Mirror.
So Belarus have said basically the war games are an attempt for them to fight off a fictional country who is attempting to drive a wedge between Belarus and Russia. And that is what they are playing with right now. And the war games are called Zapad 2017. That's ZAPAD, which in Russian means West. So the West 2017 games are about to begin. And what's interesting about this is, of course, Russia is saying, what, everyone does these games, nothing to worry about, don't look over here. And
Yeah, but now that we know they have a state-sponsored doping mechanism, they're going to be really good at these war games.
so, so what we have to consider, though, is it's not actually that wrong to be kind of getting a little fearful here. The last time they ran war games at this level, they used it as a trick to build up a lot of troops on their border, and then they took Crimea with those troops. So a lot of people currently fear that for these war games, they're going to move a lot of troops into Belarus for the games and for the military exercises, which will put those troops right on the border of NATO nations. And then when they pull back, they will not be pulling all of the troops back. They will leave troops on that NATO border.
Also, they claim that the exercise will involve 12,700 troops, which keeps it just under the 13,000 troop threshold of the Vienna document that would require them to allow in Western observers. So they're saying that it's only going to be about 12,700. But analysts think that it might actually be up to 100,000 troops. So if they're saying, oh, yeah, we sent in 12,700, oh, yeah, they all came back. Well, how is anyone going to know? There could be 80,000 troops there that they left behind.
Do they know exactly the whatchamacallit, are these troops are supposed to, or
I do not know that they've actually announced all of the specific details. They say that
they just know that
they said it will involve operations in Belarus, Russia's Western Military District, and the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad.
they don't exactly know where they're going to be sending these
this
troops.
could be hundreds of square miles.
Yeah, because I mean, Russia's a little big.
It's basically on the Russia-Belarusian border, but even that, still, thousands of square miles.
And I would have
So,
to find it on a map.
NATO's-
I don't know where it is.
NATO's Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg, has said that the lack of transparency increases the risk of misunderstanding, miscalculations, accidents, and incidents that can become dangerous. And he called on Russia to respect both the letter and intentions of the Vienna document.
He also said that he
That
couldn't.
should go over well. Yeah.
He also said that he couldn't speculate on the real purpose of the exercises, that it would become clear only after it was over that it fits a, quote, pattern of a more assertive Russia, end quote, that is, quote, exercising more aggressively, end quote, and that through its various actions, Russia has demonstrated that it, quote, it is willing to use military force against its neighbors, end
So
quote.
it's almost like it doesn't like NATO and is trying to dismantle it.
Yeah, and maybe they have a history of using war games as a pretext to build up forces and then invade countries.
And maybe why he wanted Trump to be in office. So it just would be
Yeah.
easy peasy, lemon squeezy for him.
Yeah, almost like that.
Guys, Putin sounds like a dick. I don't know you guys. I don't know you, but
Have you ever just heard him talk? Like, you see his...
Yes, I'm Putin. I have words and nipples,
you
and
see
I show them off.
how strong he looks and acts and projects, and then you hear his voice, and it does not sound like the voice of a man who is really strong and big and no, it sounds like, you know, some 20-year-old dorm college kid, and you're like, what is going on with
Well,
his
that
voice?
also fits the fact that he's about 6 inches shorter than you'd expect.
It
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like
yeah.
he has Jared Kushner's real voice.
Nice, that's where it went.
Because that prepubescent sound that comes out of his mouth is not it's not something I would think would get married.
So we're gonna get to watch all of this fun and see if they actually leave Belarus or not.
And who gets invaded?
Yeah, and
Yeah, we'll
and, you
find
know,
basically
what's
we'll
next?
find out what will
Well,
happen.
at this point, Belarus is what's getting
Well,
invaded.
Yeah, but I mean, like
But they
might,
seem to be okay with
they
it.
might do like a flea flicker and take over another smaller country next door. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
They do kind of want the entire USSR back at some point.
I mean, back.
And the
Who
sooner
doesn't
the
want to be
better.
back in the USSR? Like literally the world, but it'd be
The
nice to-
world, barring a large portion of the Russian populace that remembers, oh, right, we had jobs and things to do that weren't sit around in our fields and drink vodka because is literally nothing else to do in rural
Yeah,
Russia.
that was the thing that like shocked me when I was reading The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein. Is that before the collapse of the Soviet Union, I forget what the percentage was like, but like there was like, you know, it was like I think it was like less than 50% like drank like were alcohol, and then since the collapse, now capitalism has taken over, something like at a gross, a significant increase.
A majority.
Yeah, like
and if you go outside the cities, it is like 10 times worse.
yeah, like I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely like I think it's over 60%. I want to.
No, I don't know the exact
Yeah,
number.
but I just know that like it skyrocketed like big time, and it's like, you know, like in the standard of living, the quality of life is definitely like decreased.
Yes.
Well, the quality of life actually is way up
Well,
from when it was
now it
Soviet
is.
times at the end there anyways. And there was just a time in the 90s there, in the early
Basically
2000s.
all of the 90s, really.
Like about, you know, a good 14-year period there of this all sucks.
Also,
But now if you talk to, you know, the types of people you would expect to be more mad about Putin and his actions towards the world and his kind of dictatorial rule that he has at this point, a lot of the young kids who would go to the streets in any other country and protest this happening, they say, I like what he's doing because the stability here is a little better than it's been since, you know, I've known. And
then they have,
my
like-
dad drives a Mercedes now, so we're all good over here.
Yeah, and they have like state like media and like, you know, state
Yeah.
news, so it's like they only get what they're allowed to be like, you know, fed. So
Yeah, but their internet isn't filtered like, say, China or something, so they
Yeah,
can get out.
well, true, but at the same
they
time,
are
like
somewhat limited by the size of the Russian language web or their familiarity with other languages.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And also, I think if they spend too much time on like Al Jazeera, like I feel like someone might show up at their house.
Well, so now we just get to wait and see on that one. But during our little talk there about the war games, Kayla brought up the good old Russian doping regime.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, everyone who is willing to listen to this is probably also someone who likes documentaries every now and then. Icarus
I
on
loved
Netflix
it.
is probably the best documentary I've ever seen. And I say that not only because of the just outright content of it, but the fact that the person doing the documentary went in to do a different documentary and then accidentally found himself at the center of one of the largest doping scandals the world has ever seen.
And how to help him escape.
And help, yeah. I mean, you just have to have to watch Icarus. It is an amazing documentary.
It is, yeah, and it does center, like it starts off centering around like is it biking or bicycling? What's
Yep.
the sport? Like what is
Cycling.
it cycling? Okay. So I am not a cycling fan whatsoever. Like I know who Lance Armstrong is.
I watch every cycling event that can
Greg
possibly
loves
be
it.
televised.
I like to yell at it. But like even as someone who like could give a shit less about cycling, this documentary was amazing.
Oh yeah, by far. And it switches about a third of the way into something way different.
Well, it kind of has like a parallel story towards
well,
the
in the
end.
beginning, it's the cycling, and then
and
it
then
goes
it
into
goes to-
parallel, and then in
then
the end, it's just escape.
It's
But,
I can't
yeah.
recommend that higher.
Icarus, watch it. It's amazing. It's on Netflix. So, today, just all the news, man. We're gonna kind of revisit some DACA related stuff, I guess.
Can I just say, like, can we just like sidetrack for like one like really happy
Sure.
news story for a minute?
No, what?
What is it? Shrekky, what?
Really?
Skrelly, Mark Skrelly.
Arma bro, Martin Skrelly.
Martin Skrelly. He's in jail.
While I want him in jail, I don't want him in jail for this. I want him in jail for something more important than
but he's
joking
going
about getting a
Okay.
piece of Hillary Clinton's hair.
Okay, first of all, if you're offering $5,000 to his fucktard like followers, is not a joke.
No.
They took those
to
together.
him, that's a joke because that is literally an amount of money that does not matter to him.
Well, yeah, no, sure.
That's like you saying,
And-
"I'll give you $1 for it."
Yeah, but like he's
That's
also
how
like
out of whack his
he's-
scale is
and
because of the amount of money
so
he's made.
Creepy that he also thought that like stalking Laura Duncan was like a joke, and she was like, "No, you're actually giving me like I'm having anxiety attacks because of you," and got kicked off of Twitter for like his creepy stalker.
Right. I'm just saying, I definitely want him in jail. I just want him in jail for something better than this.
Well, you know,
No,
it's,
I will say this. On the bright side, at least for once, someone has gone to jail for being stupid.
and deserves it. Like he
outright.
like he so deserves being in jail right now.
Yeah.
Like, and I loved like the judge, because like the argument was like it was a joke, and the judge was like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me! Like, you think that your followers thought that was a joke? You offered $5,000. The people who follow you don't know what $5,000 is. Like,
Yeah.
they would absolutely do that."
Indeed.
So that brought joy to my cold dead heart. So
For the people who don't know the actual offer, based on how we worded all of that, he offered $5,000 for someone to bring him.
a lock of Hillary Clinton's hair, and then followed up saying, "I need it to perfect my genetic testing."
Yep.
So I
Good
hope
times.
I want him to be miserable and alone in a jail cell for as long as possible.
Yeah, I just, all the times I've ever seen him in times where I thought people would be sad, he's still smiling and laughing at everyone. So I just have these thoughts of him sitting in a jail cell, just looking at everyone, smiling and laughing like the joke's on them, because he internally will believe that.
I feel like that's something he could pull off if he goes to, white collar resort.
Yeah.
If he goes to an actual prison, I think he might find that
We're
a
gonna
little
get sick of
harder.
his shit real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, like no one likes him but him.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
So there you go.
that was some. I mean, I think we should end it on happy news.
No. I mean, I will tell you that, we're connected on Facebook, me and him. And if I ever mention him, he comes and like yells in the comments about the thing that I said about him. Usually he's actually like laughing though. Like I'll say something like really horrible about him and he'll come in and just laugh.
Well, now he can't because he's in fucking jail.
Right. But I love it. But what we are going to talk about now is Motel 6 will leave the lights on.
Or the police.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that when you
Or
made me
call
to-
the cops, either way. Turns out a bunch of Motel 6 employees were handing over, well, in their own words, every morning at about 5 o'clock, we do the audit and we push a button and it sends it to ICE. They were handing over the list of people who were staying at the motel to ICE to find any undocumented illegal immigrants, however you want to put it, and let ICE come get them before they got away from the hotel. And Motel 6, of course, says this was not company policy, but, multiple were actually doing it, and they weren't franchises. They were corporate owned.
Which Motel 6 does have both corporate owned and franchises. So the fact that it was two locations that are both corporate owned raises some questions.
And the choice wording by various employees of these places about how they just had a button to push that sent to ICE tells me that, your standard 9 to 5er working a minimum wage at the Motel 6 isn't going to come up with his own button. The
Yeah,
company had to provide that button.
The
Or
best.
they went to some
Unless
auction.
ICE came in and said, "Hey, we've got a button for you."
I mean,
I know, or they had some auction of like some bank like foreclosed and like they had like that emergency button that's like they wired. But
the best case scenario realistically there is what they meant is a manager instructed them to do all this and set up a speed dial on their fax machine for sending the paperwork over to ICE. That is
that's
the
best
best
case.
case.
And he should be fired.
But also, like, so we had one in Phoenix, Arizona, right? Where was the other one that said that it did it?
In
2
the
Motel
Phoenix
6
areas?
locations in predominantly Latino neighborhoods.
Okay, but I mean, still, okay. If you're in Arizona, okay, it's not uncommon, like, for someone who is maybe just visiting family to check into them. You know what I mean? Like the fact that they were like, oh, like we have someone has a Mexican ID. Oh, they must be here illegally. It's like you don't know, like.
It's even worse than that because it wasn't even like. I mean, it would have been bad, like really bad enough if that had been happening. But no, they were sending the information of everyone staying at the hotel to ICE. So like that is the sort of thing that normally you need a search warrant for. That is
Or some type of subpoena.
right. Like you do not get to just have the police demand the entire records of all
Yeah.
of the people
Yeah,
staying.
They
like
just
usually
come and do
like
a knock and talk is
like,
what they
so,
said.
like a major crime would have had to have occurred, like a homicide, and they needed to know like all of the information of like the time surrounding the homicide, like not just like on a daily.
Yeah, I mean, actually, in June 2015, the Supreme Court struck down a Los Angeles ordinance allowing police to inspect hotel guest records on demand. So when I say that that's like super illegal, I mean the courts have specifically said that is super illegal.
Well, I mean, we also know that like Arizona isn't known for their like great,
Obeying the courts,
or their super
Yeah.
awesome law enforcement. So
Yeah.
What I really want is a statement from Tom Bodette.
Mhm.
That's what I want. This is Motel 6, and he is their spokesman.
yeah, because I mean, I understand that like the kind of like the lower level motels and like the travel lodges, you know what I mean, and all of like especially in like kind of like I don't know, I want to say rural, but like kind of like empty areas, like like so like maybe there's not a lot of businesses and like there's not a lot of like foot traffic. Like I understand that there is a concern for human trafficking, and sex workers, like or I wouldn't even say sex workers. If they're human trafficking, they're like just enslaved. But you still wouldn't. You wouldn't just raise like flags unless like something really is like concerning. Like it's just
Yeah, like doesn't ICE have better things to do with their time than go through the guest registry of random hotels?
yeah, like it's not CIS. Like you can't just like scan it into a computer and have
Yeah, that
someone
takes like extensive investigation to track down and identify whether that's like the right person.
yeah,
or,
like who knows
whether-
what. Yeah, like check their visas. Maybe they're here on a like just here visiting and they're
Right.
only here for the night and they're going home tomorrow. Like you don't know. Like real crimes are happening. That we also know that Phoenix didn't there's a lot of sex crimes that didn't get investigated.
Yeah.
Like I don't
and
know.
other crimes.
Yeah, like maybe if they weren't too busy focusing on like Motel 6 stays.
So the ACLU, of course, have spoken out, hoping to hear from Motel 6 about their new corporate policy banning this as an act. We will wait and see what they actually do, but absolutely horrendous.
Well, what's frustrating is that like regardless of whether like there's whether ACLU sues or whether or not they prevail in court or maybe like some type of law or like like doesn't really matter what legally is said to like protect anyone of like who's not like who's brown essentially, because we know like in this environment right now in Trump's America, like it doesn't really fucking matter. They're still gonna go after them. They're gonna illegally racially profile them, and like there's still such a heavy anti-immigrant sentiment that's just growing. Where like unless we actually have real immigration reform, and legislative reform, there's this shit's just still going to happen.
Well, they are going to work on DACA, and they are going to supposedly put in strong border protection.
But like no
So
deal
there'll
has
be-
been struck.
There'll be some kind of reform. We'll see if we like it or not. So for a lot of people out there, you might be wondering to yourself, why did Russia in the Security Council vote for all the new sanctions on North Korea just like everyone else? Because it went through unanimously. And new sanctions hit North Korea. They hit them hard. It's $1 billion a year worth of sanctions. Well, I mean, it turns out that all that actually led to was a little less stuff coming through from China, a little less stuff coming from some of the other, neighbors, and a lot more smuggling of Russian goods like diesel fuel into the country. So it could be that Russia voted for it because they knew they were going to then start selling a lot of illegal goods to the North Korean regime.
That does seem extremely consistent with how Russia has operated under Putin.
So that is just a wonderful new thing we have learned this week.
Yes.
Yeah, Russia's doing great things in the world right now. They fired cruise missiles at Syria this week. 7 cruise missiles from submarines at ISIS militants in the suburbs of Deir ez-Zor. Al-Zor? And Syrian government broke a 3-year siege there.
I mean, what has
last week,
Russia
but-
what has Russia not done yet?
It has been just a strange week, as is always now at this point in the world.
Does seem to be a consistent thing at this point.
Yeah, we just live in a giant fuck show, and it's just not the good fuck. So,
All right. That is a great way to go out right there.
we just live
I'm
in a
down.
giant
Welcome
fuck show.
to the fuck show. All
But
right.
not the good kind.
But not the good kind. You won't enjoy this one.
Yeah, a lot of things are on fire, hurricanes, drownings. It's just the fuck show.
So, we will be back next week with a guest in studio, and you're going to have all kinds of fun. This
Are
has
you going to
been...
tell me who the guest is?
I'll
No.
tell you a couple days in advance.
Oh, you mean the day
I don't
of?
want you to, prepare too much or anything. I don't need you showing up with 7 pages of notes.
Okay, I'm not Tony, so.
There
and
we go.
Also, I can't really read that well, so.
So this has been episode 25. There we are.
Oh man,
At the quarter century.
we are almost dead.
Right. So again, pay attention to all the social media shout outs. And we could really use a little help on Patreon there if anyone wants to pony up.
Yeah, follow us on the GreggHoush Show on Twitter, and like us on the Facebooks,
and all that stuff.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Avery Kayla.
Indeed. Her name, but reversed.
Yeah, it's like backwards.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening, everyone. Good night.
Thank you for listening. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GreggHoush Show and on Instagram at GreggHoush. If you like what you've heard and want to be a part of it, check out patreon.com/GreggHoush Show. In exchange for funding our programming, you gain access to exclusive content such as uncut editions of our podcast. We have new episodes every Thursday night. We hope you listen in. The GreggHoush Show was created by GreggHoush, executive produced by co-host Derek Gowrays, and co-hosted by Kayla Avery. Other contributors include producer and writer Anna Jeffrey, co-host producer David McGuffin, and writer-engineer Robert Tortora. Theme music for this show was produced and recorded by Geneva de Colbert. Our interns include co-host Casey McLaughlin, writer-engineer Alec Greeny, writer Maddie LoCicero, and associate producer, writer, and announcer William Kennedy. You're listening to New Revolutionary Radio, your call to action.